What's going on, traders? We got a few things to talk about before we start our trading week. But before we start the video, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So, in my last video, I pretty much talked about nothing but downside. And I did say I do expect somewhat of a dead cat bounce coming into next week, at least the middle of next week. And that's pretty much what we're going to focus on in this video, or part of this video, we're going to focus on that. We're still going to talk about the downside, but I do want to give the possibility of a dead cat bounce more attention. Now, it is important to note that we do have a lot of news that came in over the week, and we had unemployment claims go through the roof. We got possible war going on. We got talks of a recession, which me personally, I think we've always been in a recession. It's just now being brought to light. I think anyone living in the real world wouldn't argue with that. So we got a lot going on as far as these black swan events. And if you don't know what a black swan event is, it's pretty much news that you can't predict and pretty much comes out of nowhere, such as 9/11, COVID, the banking crisis, dot-com bubble, things you don't really know how to react to, and things TA can't really predict. Okay. But for now, we're going to talk about the possibility of a dead cat bounce. So right now we are looking at the SPY for our time frame. And I've told you guys about this channel multiple times. You're probably tired of it, but I just want to make sure the new viewers understand why we are dropping or where we are dropping from. So for a while now, let's go to the daily time frame. So for a while now, we've been in this rising wedge. Okay. We've been in here for a very, very long time. We rejected here, we rejected all in this area. We bounced here, we somewhat bounced here, and then we rejected up here. And this is when I was pretty much saying to be cautious. There is potential for a top scenario here. And then we gapped down, and then we started to drop. We broke below our channel, and on the 4 hour time frame, we actually tried to get back into the channel, which we kind of did. We created our double bottom here, and we broke our neckline, and then we headed to 554, 556 range, and that's when we rejected our weekly supply and demand zone, and now we are heading lower. So my next target, I told you guys about 532, 531 being one of my targets, but my next target after this is 525, and that is where I think the potential bounce can come in. I do think tomorrow we're going to open up red, and if we do open up red, the lowest I'm looking at right now, at least short term, is a move to 525, and that's when I think a potential bounce can come in. So let's get a visual of that. So this is our weekly supply and demand zone here. Okay, just to make that clear. There's a lot of turbulence in this area. There's bullish wicks all in this area. There's a lot going on in this area. So for us to continue to break down and not even think to create a lower high, we really, really need bad news for that to happen. Okay, really do. And that is why I was talking about these possible black swan events. Okay, so we pretty much hit 525. We potentially bounce here. I mentioned this in the last video. If we do bounce, the highest I'm looking at is a potential move to 550, 547 range. As far as a shorter move, I'm looking at a move towards 540 range, which is right around this gap fill right here between 530, I want to say 536, 540. Now, I will make this clear once again that we are in 510 puts for September 30th. I might have the date wrong. I know I set a different date last video, but it's in the Discord. So, just in case you think I'm lying, it is in the Discord. So any member can feel free to correct me. But other than that, I do expect a bounce to 540 on the SPY. I'm sure bulls are going to be very happy. They're going to say, the bearish market is over. They're going to talk all types of crap to bears. That's fine. But me, like I said in the last video, take this bounce or rally, whatever you want to call it, with a grain of salt if we do get it. Okay. So I do plan on adding more puts to the SPY here between 540, 547 range. I'm not looking for pinpoint accuracy, considering that the contracts will be dated all the way to September. That's plenty of time. That's like a good 2 month period. So plenty of time for this to play out. So we pretty much bounce up here, and then we reject and we head much lower. I said in my last video, and I'm still standing by it, that 504 is one of my price targets. But as far as targets before that, 525, you guys already know that is one of my targets. 525, 520, 519 range. After that, the lowest as far as being humble and conservative, I should say, for lack of better wording, is a move to 513. Now, keep in mind there is a gap all the way down to about 506. So 504 sounds crazy, but when you're considering what's happening down here in this area, it is very much possible. Okay, especially considering the market conditions we are in. So that is what I'm looking at as far as the SPY. If we get a bounce, just a quick recap. If we get a bounce, I'm looking at a move between 540, 547, 547, 550 range being the highest. And then after that, I'm looking for a rejection. And then we start to head much lower. Now, what news causes us to just reject all the way back down here to this range? I really don't know, but we do have a lot of lingering news in the air. And this is why I'm telling you guys to keep these news events in the back of your head despite us bouncing higher or rallying, whatever you want to call it. All right. Now let's look at the triple Qs. So the triple Qs pretty much giving the same scenario as the SPY. If you're new to the channel, we've been talking about this trend, this rising channel for quite some time here, and this is the daily time frame, by the way. So we've been rejected here, rejecting. Um, we broke above, bulls got trapped, and then we gapped down, and bears stepped in and took over. And this is what I was talking about, the rolling over scenario, and pretty much calling the top here. I was pretty much saying if we roll back into this pattern, then yeah, things are going to get ugly, and that is exactly what happened. So we bounced here, and then we eventually gapped down and we broke below this level. Not only did we break below this channel, but we broke below our supply and demand zone. As far as the triple Qs go, I do think we're going to see a move towards 440. Lowest I'm looking at is about 438, between 438 435 range for our psych level before we potentially see a bounce. All right, let's actually zoom in so hopefully you guys get a better view here. So let's actually map this out for you guys. So what I am expecting before we get some type of bounce, and we could gap down and just get it out the way early in the morning Monday, where we just pretty much head down to about 438, 436 range, and then we start to bounce higher. We feel this somewhat of a gap here at around 460, 440, 458 range before we reject once again. So that's the scenario I'm looking at, where we just pretty much retest the bottom of this channel. We have yet to retest the bottom of this channel. So I want you guys to keep this in mind. We have yet to retest the bottom of this channel. We also want to create a lower high if we are looking for more downside here. And what do I mean by that? See, you have your high here. Whoa. So you have your high here. You have, it's not working with me. Here we go. You have another high here and then lower high. I'm sorry. You have your high here, lower high, and then you have a potential move for another lower high here as well before you start to break down. Now, if we just continue further down without creating any lower highs, then we are a crash is definitely on the table here if we're doing that. Okay, so that's the ideal move that I want to see before I enter puts on the QQQ. I don't have any puts now. I didn't alert any puts on triple Qs. I don't want to be both in the SPY and the triple Qs, or I don't want us in both the SPY and the triple Qs in the Discord. But right here, if we are blessed with this beautiful move all the way to 460, please believe that I am definitely getting puts there. Okay, 100%. So that is the move that I would like to see as far as the triple Qs. Again, 440, 438 is one of my targets. Can we head lower than that? The lowest I'm looking at is about 425 range. And if you think that sounds crazy, there is a gap there. Okay, there is a gap at around that area. So right here, we got our gap here. So does it sound too crazy? I don't think so. Okay, so we can head as pretty much that low. All right, so that is what I'm looking at as far as the triple Qs. Let's talk about Bitcoin. So I told you guys that I think Bitcoin is going to head lower. One of my price targets was 60K. After we rejected that 65K in my last video, I told you guys 60K, 57K. We pretty much hit 57K. Um, wait, did we? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we hit 57K. We got up to about 57,200 range. So congratulations if you traded Bitcoin. Pretty much talked about that target, 57K. After that, I'm looking at a move to 52K. So I still think Bitcoin is bearish. I still think Bitcoin is going to head much lower. I've been saying this for quite some time now. Now, what I will say is that there is potential for a head and shoulders pattern here. I said this in the Discord as well, where we head towards about 56, 55K. Maybe the lowest we head to 52K because this wick is right here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but right here, this 52K, around 53K, 52K is where this wick is, which I imagine is going to be our neckline. So if we do head that low, then I'm looking for an immediate rejection, and then we start to form our head and shoulders pattern right here, and then we head lower on Bitcoin. Now, I did mention in another video that I think Bitcoin can head as low as 46K. I still stand by that. There's no reason for me not to think that we're going to head lower on Bitcoin. It looks absolutely bearish. But if the market, the stock market does decide to have somewhat of a dead cat bounce scenario or rally scenario, whatever the case, wherever you want to call it, this is the move that I'm looking at, where we open up bearish tomorrow and then sometime midweek, maybe towards Monday close, we start seeing that bounce come in and then we start to revisit 65K on Bitcoin. And then please believe that I am definitely going to get coin puts once we get back up here. So that's what I'm looking at. It's also important to note that I guess it's not important to note if you're not in the Discord, but we are in our coin puts. We are in 209 puts, and we got in 209 puts, I believe, Friday at around when coin was at 210. So we're currently in profit on that play. So congratulations to the Discord members that's in that play. I gave the option to take profit before it closed, but me personally, I'm still in the play. I just trimmed some contracts, took some profit for myself. But as you guys can see on the daily time frame, we do have us a bull flag. Right now, we broke below the bull flag. My price target for coin, as in Coinbase, is 175, between 175 180. First target will be obviously 200. We rejected 200 on Friday, and then we tried to head higher. It looks like it failed from there. We pretty much retested the bottom of this. What is this? The bear flag. Sorry. We pretty much retested the bottom of this bear flag. We have our head and shoulders pattern here. Let me actually mark it out for you guys. We have our head and shoulders pattern here. Boom, boom, boom. You got your shoulder here, head here, shoulder. Okay. And then you eventually broke this neckline. Let's get rid of this. You eventually broke our neckline, and now we are looking to head lower. And my first target will be 190, between 190 188, and then after that, the lowest we could potentially go to is 170. But right now, I'm looking at about 175. That will pretty much be the measured move of this bull flag. All right, bear flag. I'm sorry, bear flag. So that is what I'm expecting for coin, from coin. We head towards this weekly supply and demand zone. Now, if we do bounce, as far as our dead cat bounce scenario or rally, I don't know why I got to keep repeating that. I just feel like I have to. But regardless, if we do get somewhat of a bounce, maybe we get a bounce at 190, 188, and we necessarily don't head directly to 170. We get our bounce. We pretty much retest about 225, 230 range, and then we head lower on coin. That will be following that Bitcoin move that I was just speaking of. And that's what I'm looking at for coin. So we'll definitely love to get puts at around that 230, between 230, 235 range before we head lower. So don't worry, I will talk if we do get this bounce sometime next week. I would definitely be talking about when I'm going to enter as far as these plays that I'm talking about. So don't worry, you don't have to be in the Discord for me to talk about it or anything like that. I will be talking about these potential scenarios and potential plays that I'm going to be looking at as far as these stocks go. Let's look at Meta. So Meta still bearish on. Let's actually go to the 4 hour time frame here. There's a lot going on this chart. I'm sorry. But right now we are in 450 puts for Meta. I'm pretty bearish on Meta. It pretty much rejected. I actually erased it because I didn't want the charts to look too cluttered. But it pretty much rejected our weekly supply and demand zone. There is a weekly supply and demand zone here between 526 and 530. We zoom in, we see this wick right here. That's pretty much where it rejected. Let's actually just mark it out so you guys can like not have to guess where it is. So right here is where our weekly supply and demand zone is. We pretty much for earnings ran all the way up to it and then we immediately rejected. We're back outside this trend line right here, as you guys can see. Don't make this stuff up. Let's actually zoom out. We bounced here, we bounced here, we bounced here, and look what happened. We broke through it. We broke through this is a daily supply and demand zone. We broke through our daily supply and demand zone. We retested the bottom of this trend and then we rejected. So I do expect Meta to head much lower. I told you guys one of my price targets for Meta is 420, between 420 and 400. Still stand by that target. Meta just looks bearish right now. As far as a dead cat bounce scenario, rally, whatever the case may be, there is potential for, let's actually mark this out. there is potential for a move. So if we do head lower, I imagine Meta is just going to potentially bounce off 450, and then that rally would come in, and then we retest 500 before heading much lower. So that's what I'm looking at as far as Meta. All right. Apple. So I wanted to talk about Apple because I kind of like rushed through it the last video, and I immediately said that Apple looks bullish. Okay, it's one of the few stocks that actually looks bullish. And I want to take part of that back and say part of that was wrong. All right, so let's just get into it. I was trying to make sense of what I was about to say, and it just didn't make sense when it came out. So if we're looking at the daily time frame, there is a reversal pattern here as far as Apple. And what I will say is that if Apple is deciding to do the inverse of the market, which we've seen plenty of times, when the market was dropping, I believe either Friday or Thursday, Apple was going up. I mean, right here, you see this wick here on the daily time frame. Apple was actually going up and going inverse of the market. So if we are to assume that Apple is going to do the same thing and do the inverse of the market, there is potential for a retest of 230 on Apple. Now, what I will say, yeah, 230. So right here, where this trend is for Apple, we pretty much retest this and then we start to head lower. Okay, not only 230, but if you pay attention, that's where this gap fill is. And what do I tell you guys all the time? Gaps have very strong support and resistance. So I imagine if this inverted hammer pattern is going to play out, if it looks like the pattern, assume that it is until it isn't. If this is going to play out and Apple decides to do inverse of the market, then a retest of 230 is inbound. Now we go to the 4 hour time frame. And this is where things look bearish. All right. This is where I think Apple is going to head towards 203. All right. So I do have a price target of 203 on Apple. I'm hoping the market doesn't I'm hoping Apple doesn't follow the market or doesn't gap down or anything like that. And I'm hoping it pretty much does the exact move that I just mentioned as far as retesting 230. All right. So I'm hoping that move happens. So let's actually mark that out. So we bounce from here, which is this is actually a weekly supply and demand zone. No, this is a daily, I'm sorry. Daily supply and demand zone. We pretty much bounce from here and then we reject and then we start to head towards 203, 200 range for Apple. So I was kind of right. I was kind of wrong at the same time. We'll have to see how Apple plays out because again, it likes to play games. It likes to do the inverse of the market, and we've seen that before. Last earnings season, if you guys remember, the market was rallying and Apple just was dropping like the whole time until it finally got its earnings report, and that's when it started to come back to life. So I imagine the same thing is going to happen if Apple continues to do the same thing, or shows that it wants to do the same thing based off historical data. So that's what I'm looking at as far as Apple. So let's look at Tesla real quick. So Tesla, I showed you guys this bear flag here. Tesla, I think it's going to head towards 198. Lowest I'm looking at is 194. Let's mark this out real quick. So we pretty much head down here. And if we break below this, then things get pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. So between 198 200, I think is potentially a buying opportunity for Tesla. I won't put that in stone right now. We'll have to see how the market plays out tomorrow. But 198 and then potentially bounce. And if we do get that market rally, bounce, whatever the case may be, I'm looking at Tesla to pretty much retest around 230, 232 range before potentially heading lower. All right. So that is my bullish and bearish scenario for Tesla. Let's talk about Netflix. Netflix still looks bearish. I mean, it just keeps trying and trying, and it just bears just continue to step in and destroy this thing. So we zoom out. Let's actually go to the daily time frame for a better view. So we zoom out and we see that Netflix broke below this rising wedge, and what makes it even more beautiful. And I'm kind of upset that I missed this because I would have loved to get into this play. Um, but Netflix pretty much rejected or bounced and rejected this trend twice. Not once, but twice, guys. That's very big. Okay. Very big. Pause. So I think Netflix is going to head lower. My first price target is 600. After that, I'm looking at a move towards 580 and then a move to 560 right in the supply and demand zone. All right. As far as a bullish scenario, I don't think I think Netflix is not going to retest this trend. It retested it way too many times. If anything, I think Netflix will head to 580, maybe 560. it does one of these moves and retests 600, which is right where these guys are. A lot of turbulence here. So I imagine that's where Netflix will want to retest if we do get that market recovery, rally, bounce, whatever you want to call it. All right. So that's what I'm looking at for Netflix. Microsoft. So Microsoft is in a weird spot here in comparison to everything else. That much I will say. So we're looking at this daily trend here for Microsoft. And as you guys can see, I don't make this stuff up. We bounced here, and now we're back at this trend. So Microsoft is pretty much different, all right? It's pretty much different. So I will say I'm not interested in Microsoft until the market shows me that it's bullish again. But what I will say is that this could be a potential buying opportunity. I still think Microsoft can head lower to at least 380. I think that would be a beautiful buying opportunity, in my opinion. But if you want a dollar cost average here, do what you want with this information. Okay, I will say that much. But Microsoft just does look different in comparison to all the other stocks and could potentially bounce from here, or we just might see the overall market bounce. Me, I won't trust it until I see the market be green right along with it. Other than that, I told you guys like in the last video that I am looking forward to doing 600 leaps for Microsoft. I think it's very undervalued, and I do think belongs in at least over 500, if anything. Okay. And last but not least, let's go over IWM. I don't want to make this video any much longer. IWM actually looks like it could potentially bounce very soon here. So this is what leading me to believe that either we're going to see a continuation of a sector rotation or a sector rotation all over again, or everything is going to bounce like almost immediately. So a lot of things are showing that they have potential to bounce, and other things are showing that they don't. Now we've seen the Russell pretty much like consolidate while the market does its thing and then make its move. So I wouldn't necessarily say the Russell is just going to immediately just do one of these moves where it just hits this trend, hit the supply and demand zone around 205, and then just go absolutely ballistic. The Russell tends to wait on the market or wait on news such as CPI, unemployment, and this whole move right here, this whole drop right here was pretty much caused by unemployment data. So the Russell can just play games all day down here while the market just drops or goes higher, whatever the case may be, before it decides to make its move, potentially going higher. And that's pretty much it. That's all I really have for the Russell. I really don't have too much interest in the Russell anymore or IWM anymore. It's just, yeah, if anything, I would say it could retest 215 to 16 range before potentially heading lower. But right now, I don't have a low price target for it. I guess it can head towards 190 if anything. But right now, we're at this trend. We're at the supply and demand zone. It's really tough to say right now. Okay, so I will say that much. Um, as far as semiconductors, let's go over semiconductors real quick, and then I will get you guys out of here. Sorry, this video is a lot longer than I thought. Let's talk about SOXL. So, XOXL pretty much broke its trend. I mentioned this in another video. Me personally, I thought it was a great buying opportunity once we got here, and it proved me wrong. So I was wrong on that. I mean, we did bounce, but I wouldn't. I mean, I guess we did bounce, so you did make money off that if you followed. But I honestly thought we would go a little bit higher, at least see 50s. But regardless, you can say I'm wrong, you can say I'm right. It's up to you. I mean, it's all about perspective on what you consider a bounce is. I'll just say that I didn't get the move correct. I would say that much. So we pretty much bounced from there, and then we rejected, and then we pretty much broke below this trend and our supply and demand zone. We bounced here, and then we tried to bounce here. We formed somewhat of a double bottom. We attempted to break the neckline, and then we went a little higher, and then we immediately rejected. So I said this before. I've said this in the Discord. I think SOXL is a beautiful buying opportunity between $25 and $20. Do what you want with that information. So yes, I do think SOXL has the potential to go lower. SMH. SMH, I have a price target of 200 on. I don't really look at SMH much, but I will say that the price target still remains the same, and I think SMH can head as low as 200. And then after 200, I would say that if we do get our bounce, we may get our bounce right away. I mean, it's really up in the air, but regardless, if this news kicks in or whatever news we get that comes out the sky and destroys everybody, um, we either head to straight to 200 or we simply just retest 230. I would say 230, which is where this gap is. And the highest I'm looking at is about 235 before we reject all over again. So, yeah, everything looks bearish for lack of better wording. I mean, we could talk about NVIDIA real quick. I know people love NVIDIA. NVIDIA, this thing looks terrible. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but we are at this trend as well. So I will say that there is potential for a bounce here. A lot of things, like I said, a lot of stocks look like they want to bounce, and a lot of stocks look like they want to continue to drop. So I'm going to reiterate this to be very, very cautious heading into the beginning of next week. All right, because a lot of things look sketchy. I will say that much. So as far as Nvidia goes, I think there's potential for a bounce at 98, 97 range, which is actually right where this gap fill is. Well, it's a little bit lower, about 95. So I think Nvidia is a buying opportunity at around 95, 97, but you want to make sure the market supports that sentiment. So I wouldn't jump the gun just yet. Make sure the market looks like it wants to bounce. If you want to follow my videos and see if I think a bounce is coming or that the bounce is in, by all means, or you just want a dollar cost average at 97, 95 range, then do what you want. But regardless, it's up to you. Do what you want. Um, I'm just here to help and pretty much have fun. All right. I like doing YouTube. I think it's fun and it adds to my schedule. So, other than that, 97, 98 is where I would think NVIDIA is a good buying opportunity. If you need more of a confirmation, I mean, right here is pretty much clear as day. Boom. You rejected here, you rejected here, well, you somewhat consolidated here, and then you gapped up. So I imagine that's where we're heading. That's about 96.5. So that's pretty much all I have for this video. I just wanted to reiterate everything I said in the last video, but also talk about a potential bounce scenario for a lot of things and what targets I'm looking at as far as the upside. But overall, I think it's safe to say that I think it's obvious to say that I am pretty much more bearish, a lot more bearish than bullish, at least for I guess the short term. Again, I do expect a bounce. I mean, we if we look at Nasdaq real quick, Nasdaq I think is going to head towards 18K, 18K, 18,200. Lowest I'm looking at is 17,800 before we see some type of bounce from the Nasdaq. And after that, once we get that bounce, so let's mark that out. We bounce and then we head as high as about 19K, and that's when I think another rejection will come in, and then we'll start heading towards 17K on the Nasdaq. So yeah, things don't look good. I think I'm making that clear here. Okay, things don't look good. So I will say it again. I said it before. Any bounce that comes in, no matter how good it looks, and by all means, make your money. Trade the upside. If it provides you opportunity, by all means, take advantage of it, but still take it with a grain of salt. Take your money and run because it looks like things can get much worse from here. All right. So I will say that much. Be careful, traders, plain and simple. Don't go too crazy on whatever rally, whatever bounce we do potentially get. Keyword potentially. Is that even a word? Regardless, yeah. And Discord link is in the description below if you want access to my plays and you want to know when I enter these plays that I've been talking about and so forth. Website is below if you want access to text messages. Text message alerts sent directly from me straight to your phone. You get all my plays sent directly through text messages if you don't want to go through a Discord app, or maybe you're too busy to look at the Discord app, whatever the case may be. That's available as well. All you do is go to the website, you subscribe. If you do subscribe, you get a free newsletter. You get a free newsletter. Let's actually look at the website. Sorry. You get a free newsletter, and the SMS alerts are right here, guys. You can't miss it. But you get a free newsletter every week on Sunday, and you get a free ebook on trading. So more ebooks will be coming, guys. A lot more is coming on this website. I'm absolutely excited for it. But check it out. You can subscribe for free. It's completely free. Only thing that costs on this website is SMS alerts. Simple as that. Or you can just join the Discord community directly, which is a little bit cheaper to do. It's up to you. But regardless, I really appreciate the support lately. The channel has been growing like crazy, getting like 100 subscribers a day. I mean, it's insane. So I really appreciate the support. I appreciate the good comments. I appreciate the negative comments. I know people keep talking about my sound and comparing my money to my sound. I don't get paid for YouTube, guys. I just do this for fun. I don't care enough for YouTube. I just do this for fun. I love to help people make money. But if you think I'm going to put thousands of dollars into production on YouTube, you are highly mistaken on how serious I'm taking this. Okay. So I enjoy it. Yes, I enjoy helping people make money. Do I need it? Absolutely not. I'm sorry. All right. But otherwise, that's all I have, guys. Until the next video, traders, have a good one.